This is where the big boys play, huh? We ain't here to play. At the total combined weight. At the total combined weight of 589 pounds.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, at well over 500 pounds, this is where the big boys play.
All right, welcome to the show. This is At a Combined Weight presents Hot Tags, which is a really sweet and cool name that we're going to call ourselves on the weekly wrestling news. So that's going to be our name now.
Yeah, I like it. We had a discussion on whether there's really like multiple hot tags in a match or not. You oppose. I kind of maintain you see like one really orgasmic climactic hot tag and you'll see another tag that's like, meh, yeah.
It depends how long the match is.
Yeah.
The hot tags that I grew up watching were, the hot tag from Brett to Jim, the Anvil Neidhart. He comes in and does power spots and that kind of thing, and the rockers.
Indeed.
I guess it's more of a, you could do multiple hot tags if you had multiple like Smurl Haggard guys, like with the rockers. But I don't think that if you beat down Jim the Anvil Neidhart, it takes away from his persona, I think. He's the big guy.
Yeah, and most tag teams have that one.
Like small guy, big guy.
Yes, yeah, you have one Smurl Haggard who can fly all over the place, and then you have one big power fellow, one big guy who does the large people maneuvers.
One less giant guy in the case of Legion of Doom or the Road Warriors, Harlem Heat, the Steiners.
Yeah, absolutely.
The least athletic of the two.
There you go.
I guess you'd say. In those situations, because I think Animal and Rick and Stevie Ray were all less athletic.
True. So. This is very true. So with that, this is Hot Tags.
Hot Tags presented by At a Combined Weight. A weekly news, this week in wrestling kind of deal. We're going to look at Smackdown, Raw, and the news up to this point, previewing some pay-per-views if that. This week, we're going to look at Raw, we're going to look at Smackdown, talk about the build to SummerSlam, gush and complain about stuff like only people on the internet can do about wrestling. And as always, you can check out our Nitro retrospective on pwinsiderelite.com. This is going to be an exclusive to YouTube deal, Hot Tags is, so make sure you share it, comment, like it, tweet about it, send smoke signals.
And if you wanted to shit all over it, you could do that too. I guess any exposure is better than no exposure.
Yeah, exactly.
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, do that.
But then, watch somebody do it and me get good and pissed off on the next one.
Oh, of course.
Just
of course.
Bury that individual. No, we won't. Do what you want.
Let's get into Raw, talk about your thoughts from Raw.
It was okay. It wasn't good as the previous week. They really had a fine debut as the new era of Raw begins, as they're calling it. So I didn't think it measured up to last week's show. It's just my overall thought about it.
Yeah, and to put it in a little bit of perspective, I thought about this today when I was, doing some regular stuff around the house and whatnot. Seeing how close we are to college football season made me think about how you can't really tell how good your team's going to be until week 2, week 3, when they start playing somebody worth of shit, unless they're in one of those big crossover matchups. But even then, you don't really know. And to me, last week was an anomaly in that you had a big title change. And you also had 2 big 4-ways leading into who's going to be in the main event at SummerSlam, one of the main event matches at SummerSlam for the Universal title. You're not going to have that every week. You know, it's like watching Auburn or Florida. You're not going to put up 56 points every week. You know, that's when you play like La Tech or an Eastern Washington or North Texas State Pan American, Poopy Tray. You're not going to play them every week and beat them 56-0, you know?
Right.
Next week's going to be a little tougher. So we kind of came down to earth, settled in a little bit. I did like Raw, though. I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed the push, the continued push of Finn Balor. I really thought that Rollins came across really well. And I loved that he gave Atlanta shit for doing the tomahawk chop.
Oh man, I'm in Atlanta, and I'm a big fan of sports talk radio. I love listening to it. I really think that no matter what city I lived in, I would more than likely listen to it. Sports talk is just something I've always just kind of gravitated toward. And the theme of every show in this market is bitching. I mean, they bitch and bitch constantly. So it was funny and I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't pull for any of the sports teams here. But Rollins, when he buries the Braves, it was fantastic. And it was a funny retort from the fans to come back with that tomahawk chop, too. I
thought it was great when he said, when he recognized the fact that it was like, that he was knowledgeable enough about real athletics to know that it was a tomahawk chop was the chant that they were doing for the Braves.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of wrestlers aren't sports fans. A lot of wrestlers aren't really like huge wrestling fans. They didn't grow up fans of the business, but Rollins showed that he had some some athletic acumen there, knowing that that's the tomahawk chop is the war chant of the Braves. I don't like the Braves. I feel like they get overblown coverage here because of our proximity to them, and I've never liked them. I thought it was like a very trendy thing to be a Braves fan when I was growing up, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. So I loved it. And I love Rollins, and I really enjoyed the back and forth between he and Balor on Raw.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good. And before we get into that maybe portion of Raw, I want to talk about the very opening, which you have Sasha.
That's where I was going to go next.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well,
go ahead.
I guess we've been doing this long enough. We're starting to kind of like sense that about each other now, maybe. But
that's good. That's good and bad. I don't want to be on your mental wavelength too much.
You'll learn to love it. Well, Sasha Banks, she comes out and cuts what I feel just wasn't a very good promo. Did you? I didn't really.
No, I don't think she's a very. To me, I don't feel like she cuts very good promos in her current state in the company. And what I mean by that is she's kind of a baby face, but she's kind of a bitchy, selfish baby face, if that makes sense.
It does, but I
like if you're a legit boss, like most people don't like their bosses.
Right.
And they don't like people that act like a boss a lot of times because they're somewhat self-righteous and self-centered, and they think it's all about them. Those are not very, like, baby-face type, what's the word I'm looking for here? Baby-face personality traits.
Well, I think one very simple problem, one very simple solution could solve this problem. She could just be herself a little bit more. Something tells me, and I don't know the lady. One of the other elites could simply tell us what she's like if anyone out there like knew her, but like I felt like if she just stopped trying to cut a wrestling promo and just kind of kept in mind that she has this boss gimmick going on and just talked, it would be good.
Right.
She tried to make it too wrestly for lack of a much better word.
Yeah, I feel like you're onto something in the fact that it did sound kind of over-scripted. It was.
Yes.
It wasn't. It was written for her. It wasn't written by her, or she didn't come up with it. It seemed kind of forced. It wasn't very organic for her, and I thought that the segment was saved by the men. I thought Jericho and Enzo coming out, and then they're back and forth on the mic, and their, intermittent banner between them and the other women, I thought it made the segment that much better. Yes. I'm not a huge fan of the formula of opening the show with a 15 to 20-minute promo segment, how they often do.
Well,
But this wasn't bad.
Yeah, but I'm also not a fan of very predictable booking, and once you had the 4 of them out there, I'm going, okay.
Mixed tag.
Typical, yeah, we're going to get a mixed tag. In fact, one could have come to that conclusion once Jericho stepped in the equation, because it was Charlotte.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
It was Charlotte that came out there first, and you're absolutely right in that it was saved by the fellows. They did a fantastic job, because Charlotte coming out and saying that, she tapped because there was a fly there. Give me a fucking break. If this is
so dumb,
new
insipid booking idea there. I know that it's a heel, begging off and that kind of thing. I thought that was stupid as well. I loved how the only word that Jericho said was quiet. I felt like he was like an older, substitute teacher. Quiet. And the crowd actually did get quiet for him.
That's pretty. When you have that kind of power, that's
because he's a heel, but he's still over and people love him.
Right.
It's like, I guess people are just like, yeah, shit all over us and tell us that we're garbage, but we're gonna still love you, and we're gonna boo the shit out of you because we hate your character, but you're still awesome.
And I'm becoming more and more of a fan of Enzo myself.
Love Enzo. I've loved Enzo and Cass since their NXT days, and I was, apprehensive that, Vince wouldn't get it when they came up, or they'd be booked to be just comedic fodder. Running around the arena looking for Pokemon.
Oh God.
But fortunately enough, they've gotten over huge and gotten a little rub from Cena, so we're kind of. They're fun and they're over as shit. I think they're the second most over act in the company right now.
Second fiddle to who?
New Day.
Well, I'm hoping they change guard then. I really am.
You're not a big New Day fan?
I'm not anti New Day. Not a big fan either.
Let's go ahead and talk about New Day and the club. What'd you think about that? I thought it was a kind of a nothing match, but the Angle set up something further. With Big E getting injured, how will the New Day be with just Kofi and Xavier Woods?
Yeah.
I don't think they'd be as an effective tag team.
That is a good question to ask going forward. Without Big E, how do they fare? I'm with you. I think without their enforcer. Arn Anderson set such a precedent many years ago. I wonder if he was cognizant of that. There's always an enforcer in a posse.
Right.
He's theirs.
Yeah. One thing that I'm really looking forward to more of the club and that idea that the match was kind of secondary to the Angle, which I'm fine with. A lot of people were kind of bitching that the club got rolled up and the match was quick. But the match wasn't the point. It was the after effects that it doesn't matter. You don't remember if they won or lost. You remember that they beat the shit out of Big E. And you will if it's pushed forward to where, Big E's out going into SummerSlam. You've got Kofi and Xavier Woods against the club. That's a perilous situation for those two baby faces.
Yeah, I think it's great that we have more to look forward to with those guys. I really do.
The only other thing I want to touch on Raw is Roman Reigns and Rusev. Reigns has been getting a lot of heat recently because the smart fans aren't really big fans of him because they feel like he's been shoved down their throat and they don't want him to be the next Cena, etc. So WWE does the only logical thing they can do is book him against a foreign heel. So as a fan, you're either cheering against the United States or you're cheering for Roman Reigns. So,
yeah.
I mean, what do you do here? I mean, because are you going to cheer for the Bulgarian brute who talks shit about America if you're a fan? I don't think you are. So, smart booking there. You're either going to have the fans support Roman Reigns or they're going to sit on their hands because they don't like either one.
No, it is absolutely, I mean, that is some smart booking. It really is. I saw your tweet about it. We both have control over the handle, but you definitely, you floated that one out there, and I read it, and I was like, damn, you have a very, very valid point there. So.
Right. Looking at SmackDown, the biggest thing for me this week that I enjoyed coming out of SmackDown is the Brock and Randy stuff. I've been kind of, I guess, lukewarm on Randy Orton's return, but I loved the RKO out of nowhere on Raw, which led to Brock's invasion, if you will, on SmackDown.
Absolutely. It further perpetuates what Heyman said on Raw recently, in that Brock can do whatever he wants.
Right.
And because, you know, and so he can get into a building and get past security and get up there in F5 Randy Orton out of nowhere if he, by God, wants to.
And I liked it because they're both on different brands, so it kind of had a NWO invasion feel to it.
Yes.
But not too much to where, like, yeah, he wasn't supposed to be here, but it wasn't overbooked to the point where you're wondering, you know, well, you know, did he buy a ticket? How did he get in? Well, I mean, he works for the company. He walked his ass in there and did it, but he's going to leave. So it's kind of sets a little bit of a foundation going forward to say, well, you know, is Randy going to show back up on Raw and get his heat back? And if he does, when is he going to attack Brock? If Brock's there, do we see Brock show up on SmackDown again? I mean, it kind of gives a little bit of an excitement to both shows as far as this angle goes, and you don't really get that a lot in wrestling these days.
I really like that a lot, how you can have, like you said, the bleeding in with each show. I hope they're not going to be afraid to do that in other angles going forward. I don't want
it to be done too much, though.
Well, right, you know, I don't want anything to be done too much, but for the appropriate type of feud, I hope they're absolutely not afraid to do that. I don't want them to tie up their own hands. Oh, can't do that. They're SmackDown people. They're Raw guys. What the hell ever.
Right. Elsewhere on what?
Well, what did you think about AJ Styles and John Cena, their exchange?
I liked it. I thought for once, and I think Cena's done a good job throughout this entire feud with AJ, not being too like corny and poopy and fruity pebbles and neon colors and bullshit. I think he's been more like real, and that early John Cena that people, like that males and females alike, enjoyed. It wasn't just like a kid and the women liked him. I thought it was really good stuff from both people. I loved the fire that AJ showed in his promo, and I thought Cena seemed a little more realistic rather than sunshine pumping and Jack and I'm going to push my movie and here's my fruity pebbles. Make sure you buy my neon T-shirt and my wristbands and my hat and my shoes and
true.
merchandise, buy the shirt. You know, I thought it was a little more realistic between these two guys.
It was a much better job done by John Cena. I still had my moments that I did want to vomit, but
like what?
All the humble brags, dude. All the humble bragging about the various TV appearances he had made and what have you.
I mean, he's got to toot his own horn because there's a lot of people that might not keep up with the business as well as, you know, you and I. And I think they need to know all the shit he does. I mean, the fact that he will host the Today Show and then go do some Make-A-Wishes and still shows up to SmackDown.
Yeah, they do, but maybe it's the the anti-Cena guy in me speaking too loudly on the subject. I don't know, but
you got to give Cena some credit when it's due.
Well,
you know,
sure, and I'm not afraid to, man. When he and CM Punk tore the house down several years ago at Money in the Bank, yeah, I was that's as hard as I've ever applauded the guy. And when he has a good match like that, I'm happy to applaud him as well.
Right.
AJ Styles, he did a fantastic job with this. I love how he wasn't afraid to bury the kids and parents in a market like Nashville that you know is hot for Cena.
Oh yeah, the South loves Cena.
They really do.
I don't. They really, really do. The South, they love their training, their prayers, and their vitamins like Hulk Hogan. They love their white meat baby faces, and that's John Cena. And I never really understood that, I guess, growing up and like into college and stuff. But man, they do. They love people that win all the time, and they love their white meat baby faces.
They absolutely do. And the only time I've ever really, now mind you, back when he had his hip hop gimmick, I was not into, I had taken a pretty long hiatus for wrestling, so I was not into it around the time of his hip hop gimmick. But the only time I really liked him was, I think back in like 2009, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and he just wasn't shoved down our throats as much. And I also understood about how you got to have that one guy who
Right.
is loved by a lot of people, and I just kind of understood that and went with it. And he, like I said, he wasn't shoved down our throats as much.
Yeah, a little like you're talking about the era where he feuded with Umaga.
Yeah.
That kind of, around that time. It was great stuff. He was starring in the Marine, and he wasn't type too kid-oriented, and he still kind of had that edge to him that he had during the hip-hop phase of his character. But he wasn't so, like, after-school special, corny-ass Sesame Street-type jokes and whatnot.
Right.
But elsewhere on SmackDown, speaking of fire in a promo, I really like Dolph's promo. And I'm glad, so glad, finally, that WWE had the presence of mind to talk about how dumb it is for somebody to put their title shot on the line. You know, Daniel Bryan put over the fact that, hey, Dolph, you already have a spot in the main event at SummerSlam. Why would you put it on the line? And I thought they did a decent job of explaining that. You know, too often they've just kind of said, well, you're going to put it on the line because of an evil authority figure, or you're just going to put it on the line because you're stupid, and they don't explain it. And I thought they did a decent job of explaining it.
Yeah, I like the fact that they seem to be booking Dolph well and putting him in a position to look good finally.
Finally, yeah.
I hope it carries over into SummerSlam. I really, really do. I admire the guy a lot. I enjoyed the match with he and Bray Wyatt. I really did. And nobody informed me that Bray Wyatt these days is Rastafarian.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, nice dreads there, Bray.
Yeah, he is kind of going a little Rasta there.
It fits.
Yeah, it does. It does. The crowd seemed into Dolph's win over Bray, and they're into Ziggler. It's just that he's been yo-yoed so much. I don't think the crowd is completely bought in and sold out to the fact that Dolph has a chance to win the championship at SummerSlam.
Well, this match,
and I think if they can buy into the fact that if they can believe that he can win, that crowd's going to be really, really hot for him and Ambrose.
Well, don't you think that this match against Bray Wyatt kind of helps with that?
Yeah, I think
do.
it does.
Yeah.
I think it does. Finally, WWE's booking some shit like normal wrestling companies. You know?
Absolutely.
Rather than just a lot of insipid, yo-yoing, emasculating heels, etc. Speaking of booking, I didn't like the way they booked Apollo Crews this week. He'll face Miz, which is kind of I don't really give a shit about it, but I thought he looked way, way better last week, and he just kind of lucked into a win this week with the rolling up, of all people, Kalisto. So you're going to roll up like a small child, basically.
Yeah, I mean, they could put him against some bigger guys. Jeez.
And I like Kalisto's work, and I think he does a good job. But the fact that he has to roll him up that late in the match after Baron Corbin has destroyed him, it makes him look too opportunistic to me. And I don't think your faces need to be that opportunistic.
Well, I do like,
yeah, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I do like the fact that Miz got in there and had the skull-crushing finale, got some heat on him.
Yeah, Miz is pretty good with getting heat.
Yes.
He's been just booked terribly as well. Which I think SmackDown is laden with characters who've been booked improperly.
It really is.
So many guys have been just yo-yoed and booked to look like shit and just awful, awful stuff. But, you know, it looks like they're getting better with it.
It does. Goodness, I really wish that the Intercontinental title meant what it used to.
I think they can, now that it's on its own brand, and they don't have to kind of put it on the same level as the U.S. Championship, I think it might end up meaning a little more.
It could.
In theory, you know, that's what you hope happens. I think it would be nice to have him, to have Apollo Crews win it and maybe legitimize it as a younger person's belt. And you know how it used to be like the springboard to the world title back in the day. If it could get back to that, you know, you have a little, a sustained run with the Intercontinental title and then you lose it and then you go for the world title.
That's what I'd like to see.
That's exactly what it needs to be. That's what the secondary title needs to be. It's what it's always been. I mean, you have Bret Hart beats Mr. Perfect, SummerSlam 91 for the Intercontinental title, has a little run, okay? And then at WrestleMania 8, he beats Piper for the Intercontinental title, loses it in a nothing match with your boy, the Mountie. And then he goes on to win the belt from Flair in Saskatoon. I mean, that's the type of thing, and they did it with Shawn Michaels too. I mean, that era was perfect. They were like, okay, if you can run for about 6 to 8 months with the Intercontinental title, legitimize yourself in the eyes of the fans, then your next point is you're going to drop the Intercontinental title and on a house show or in some kind of heel cheating the win kind of deal, and then you're going to move on to the World Championship.
Sure.
And that's what they need to do with Apollo Crews. Let me ask your opinion on Apollo Crews and how, and I don't think that he has the charisma nor the promoing ability of the man that I'm going to compare him to, but I don't feel like he's very over, and I feel like he could be close to getting shit on by the smart fans if the way that they're booking him keeps up. He's very, very similar to Rocky Maivia in his presentation. He's so bouncy and smiley and, you know, thrusting his hand up in the air like celebrations and, you know, very cheeky and fun and kind of insipid, if you will.
Yeah, but true, and I agree for the most part, but what was your question to me about him?
Well, do you think that one, do you agree with him not getting over in that kind of white meat, sugary baby face standpoint? Do you think it would benefit him to turn heel and kind of develop into that kind of a Rock persona? I mean, he's not going to be the Rock, obviously, but I'm just talking about that path.
I absolutely would love to see a guy that big and strong and athletic turn heel, to go polar opposite from what you are, because it's not over with me personally. I don't like the smiley, wavy, jumping up and down unicorns and rainbow bullshit myself. Right. I really, really don't. I've been over that type of character for years, totally over it. would love to see him turn heel, and I think he would get over with a lot more fans that way. You and I talked years ago about how we were comparing the ROH baby faces to the WWE baby faces, and just how much more compelling and interesting the ROH baby faces were, because they were absent of that unicorn and rainbows type gimmick.
Yeah, they seem more compelling and less cartoon-like.
Yeah.
More geared toward, like, our age people rather than being booked for kids.
True. I mean, don't get me, I like a colorful personality. You and I talk you give me shit. You give me shit for loving the weirdos, as you call them. And by God, I do. I do like my weirdos, but, it would behoove him to do something a little different. And I think he is very close to getting good and shit on.
I hope he does kind of get shit on to where they turn him heel, because I really don't like his booking as a face. And I'm fine with them kind of booking a little bit toward that younger group, but I don't want to see Shaggy from Scooby-Doo as my fucking champion, you know? And that's a lot of the kind of stuff that they do, you know? I don't want to see Bugs Bunny as my world heavyweight champion. I want to see, I can understand, you know, what happened to, like, Hogan and the Warrior and those type of guys, Jake the Snake, Macho Man. Those guys were huge with kids, and they never were like, oh, well, suffering succotash.
Right.
I'm in a smile all the time. Like, no, fuck that. These kids aren't that fucking douchey, are they?
God, I hope not.
I mean, if the future of America deserves these type of characters, then the future of America is in a terrible, terrible state.
What the future of America needs is what happened to you and I as kids, where we watched Macho Man Randy Savage get bit by a fucking defanged cobra.
Yeah,
and,
hell yeah.
And we're going, oh my God, they have
that was one of the greatest
snake in
of all
there.
Time for me. Like, it was so insane.
Oh my God. It was so, and to have him go out on the stretcher and still getting his ass kicked.
6, I mean, what was like, 7? I mean, good grief.
He's on the stretcher, man, and he can't even keep his composure. He's like, jostling around and rolling off the thing. And
or when the Undertaker locks the Ultimate Warrior inside the casket and he's like gasping for air.
Oh, fuck that. No, I can't watch.
I mean, that feeds into claustrophobic and like being in tight spaces and gasping for air. And that, I mean, you were like, holy shit, the Warrior is going to die. Somebody needs to come save him.
A little less extreme, but still pretty heavy. I love seeing the Undertaker nail Kamala into that big wooden coffin he made for him in the first ever casket match.
Yeah. That's good stuff. I mean,
very.
It was good to where, as an older person, you can totally buy into it, and you're like, yeah, it might be a little campy, but at least it's not like, oh, sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and leprechauns blowing gold out of their assholes. I mean, you know?
Right.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about the debut of American Alpha. Love this tag team. JBL compared them to the Steiners and then the Rockers. And those were the two teams that in my mind, I thought about. I might have even tweeted this. I don't remember if I tweeted that if the Steiners and the Rockers had a love child, it would be American Alpha.
Yeah, that was tweeted, actually.
I love this team. They're so fun to watch. And I hate the Vaudevillains, so I'm glad they destroyed them. The Vaudevillains is a shit gimmick, and I hate it.
No, it's that was destined for failure. And sometimes I think the WWE kind of knows it.
Yeah.
You know, with a gimmick that bad, how do they not? They were fantastic. I enjoyed their match. I love what we talked about earlier. One guy brings the power, the other brings the high flying ability and the lightning to the thunder, if you will.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought it was well done. They did some old school tag team tactics to where the big guy kind of sets up something for the Smurl Haggard and he capitalizes.
Right. I'm looking forward to seeing whether is SmackDown going to have its own tag title, and if they are, just go ahead and put it on American Alpha and let them have a huge run with it. I hope that they keep one title to where they can bounce back and forth, but I have a feeling that they're going to have 4 titles for each brand.
I was I was just about to tell you, I smell more titles being born.
Oh yeah, I definitely smell more titles. The women are getting a title. With Daniel Bryan announced this week that down the line they were going to bring out a women's title for SmackDown. So I definitely see another tag straps coming to fruition.
Well, maybe they'll melt nickels or dimes instead of pennies this time.
Oh, those are the worst looking tag belts of all time.
They're really shitty.
Bring back the old ones that look cool.
Yeah, no, Charles and I, for those of you that, a lot of you don't know, but we call the tag belts the melted pennies. Because it does.
They do look like melted pennies.
It looks like someone just took a bunch of pennies, melted them, and then, put Michigan State's little helmet on there, carved it kind of like with some hot ass metal. They took a stick and just kind of chiefly drew in Michigan State's little symbol and threw it on some leather, and that's the belts.
Yeah.
Shitty looking things.
So SmackDown had 2 women's matches scheduled and no women wrestled. Eva Marie comes out and does a little injury gimmick, and then Natty and Carmella were supposed to fight, but Natty attacks Carmella. What were your thoughts on the women's matches?
Well, they didn't really get to have any, like you said.
The angles are. Eva Marie is so hot.
Yeah, no, I got to see her walk down the aisle and get up on the turnbuckle and just be hot as a $2 pistol. That's what I got. That's what we were treated to, and
yeah,
that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with her not wrestling because she's terrible anyway. Just have her come out and look hot and then feign an injury and go back to the back. That's fine with me.
They could have her.
And have Becky Lynch wrestle Natty or, one of the other women. Carmella's pretty decent in the ring, but she's getting X-Pac heat these days.
Well, they could have Eva Marie be Kaz's the Lana to Rusev. She could be the Lana to. I'm fucking up this analogy 6 ways to Sunday. She could be to Kaz what Lana is to Rusev. That's what I'm trying to say here. She could be that to a lot of different guys. Just go and be hot. Not necessarily have to wrestle. Yeah, just go be their lover.
Second. But I don't know how good of a promo she is.
Oh, I don't either.
You have to be able to promo if you're going to be the valet. And if she's just hot and not going to say anything, then she could serve as like a woman type where she just hollers at ringside.
Oh.
Looks hot and hollers.
Yells her ass off. While Elizabeth's sitting there being so meek and mild.
And hot. And hot too.
Absolutely. This card featured a match, and it was a pairing of my 2 least favorite moves ever.
What?
You know what they are. It's not going to surprise you much. If this were radio, this would be like the tease going into the next segment. I'll tell you in a minute. After the break, it was Sheamus and his stupid ass punches across the chest that I've called for years the most wasted 10 seconds in wrestling.
Right.
It actually.
And you don't like the swing either?
Hell no. I hate the damn swing.
The swing is so over though.
God, why?
It just is a feat of strength, and it looks cool, and I don't know.
He shows his feats of strength in so many other ways that are
more
awesome.
It's just a way for WWE to kind of have a little gimmicky move set. It's like a people's elbow kind of thing.
I can't believe you don't have a bigger problem with it.
I love him too much to care, I think.
Oh, he's fantastic. I tell you what, he's over. I follow him on Instagram. He's over with the broads too, Cesaro.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
There was this chick who I was really into some years ago who was who was really into him as well. And then to see the way the ladies pop for him on Instagram, it makes sense as well. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I got, Charles, for.
I wanted to talk about SmackDown's commentary. David Otunga, terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible.
You know, I didn't really. Not unlike Raw last week. You remember how I told you that all I noticed about commentary was that I just wasn't repulsed?
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Otunga's terrible, dude. He's the worst. One of the worst color guys I've ever heard ever.
I'll pay more attention next time, I guess. But I mean, if he can't do broadcasting and he's not over with the fans from an in-ring wrestling standpoint, I mean that creates that's a tits on a boar hog scenario right there.
Well, they obviously think he can do color commentary.
Oh yeah,
he's just not good. He brings nothing to the table. I think SmackDown and Raw would both be better with 2-man booths. If you had Mauro Ranallo and JBL on SmackDown and Corey Graves and Michael Cole on Raw, it would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm not
both
feeling
commentaries would be great.
I'm not feeling Byron Saxton myself. I'm never.
Yeah, I thought he does good sometimes, but I feel like a 3-man booth is so crowded.
It is.
And you've got to be good, and they're not.
Yeah, and you know, you could do like they were doing in the WCW days. That's so fresh on our minds. Have the 2-man booth for Nitro, for instance. Have the 2-man booth for Raw and SmackDown, and then do the 3 for the pay-per-views. That's plenty.
Yeah, that's right.
That's plenty. It's a pay-per-view. Yeah, let's do a little something bigger, a little different. That's okay. Yeah,
do a 3-man booth because you bring in, you've got one Raw guy, and then you have the same 3 guys calling all the matches. You know, you got Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and JBL or Mauro Ranallo. You just kind of alternate them. You know, I think it'd be good.
Absolutely.
So SummerSlam shaping up. You got Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton confirmed. Rollins and Finn Balor confirmed. Ambrose and Ziggler, AJ and Cena, Charlotte and Sasha, and Miz, Apollo Crews, and it looks like we're going to have Roman Reigns and Rusev and New Day in the club. On paper, not a bad card.
Oh,
I'm looking forward to every single match on that card that I just named, except for Miz, Apollo Crews.
Yeah, I think it's shaping up to be a pretty damn good card. I think I'll be out of town when it happens. I'll have to time shift that one.
Reigns and Rusev will be just a Donnybrook. They'll break shit. Just very brawl-esque. Just let them fight and break stuff.
It'll be 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Yeah, oh yeah. It'll be Oklahoma, Nebraska, circa 1975.
Absolutely.
Halfback dives and option pitches.
That's my kind of shit.
I know.
Always will be.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. You've been listening to Hot Tags presented by At a Combined Weight. As always, like, share, comment, follow us on Twitter at A Combined Weight. And if you have any questions, we can do Q&A if you'd like to do that. Email us at acombinedweight@gmail.com. Follow Rob on his plethora of social media.
Being_large.
And then Robert McElroy Actor on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like him and have him star in your next commercial or movie or porno or whatever.
Hey, I can be bought. I can be bought.
To close the show here, we're going to have a new single by Evergrey off their 10th studio album. Comes out September 7th. It's a fantastic band. If you like rock, metal, this is a progressive metal band from Sweden. The Storm Within comes out September 7th. This is their first single off of that album. The song is called Distance. Again, Evergrey, Storm Within. Check them out on YouTube. Thanks for listening. At a Combined Weight. And here's Evergrey with Distance.